The skies above Earth were peaceful that Tuesday morning. Dr. Kim stood at the window of the Global Space Observatory, coffee mug in hand. Behind him, computers hummed quietly, scanning the depths of space as they had for decades. A sharp beep broke the silence. "Sir, you should see this," called Technician Song from his monitoring station. Dr. Kim set down his mug and moved to the screen. The signal pattern displayed was unlike anything they had recorded before, regular, structured, and definitely not natural. "How long has it been transmitting?" Dr. Kim asked, adjusting his glasses. "We first detected it 4 hours ago. It's coming from just beyond Neptune's orbit and growing stronger. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed the same readings. President Park was briefed as military leaders gathered in emergency sessions. The signal continued for 3 days before the first objects appeared on long-range scans. They're massive," reported Defense Minister Bay during the Emergency Council meeting. "And they're moving against the orbital plane. No natural object does that." As the objects drew closer, their artificial nature became undeniable. They were ships, thousands of them, arranged in perfect formation. Earth's major powers scrambled their military forces while trying to maintain public calm. On the 7th day, the lead vessel positioned itself in high Earth orbit. Global communication systems activated simultaneously, broadcasting the same message across every screen on the planet. A tall figure appeared, humanoid, but clearly alien, with pale, blue skin and eyes that reflected light like a cat's. High Admiral Tay of the Galactic Hegemony spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, your planet now falls under the protection and authority of the Galactic Hegemony. Your resources and population will be integrated into our empire. Resistance would be unfortunate and brief. You have 24 hours to surrender control of your governments and military assets." The message ended. Panic spread globally as the reality of first contact crashed down, not with a handshake but with an ultimatum. In an underground facility beneath the White House, President Park met with world leaders via secure channels. "They've surrounded the planet completely," Director Kang reported, showing satellite imagery of the alien fleet. "Our best weapons wouldn't scratch their hulls based on initial analysis." "What about Project Poseidon?" asked the Russian president. President Park exchanged glances with General Han. The classified military initiative had been a secret, shared by only 5 nations for 15 years. "It's operational," General Han confirmed, "but untested in actual combat. We never expected to need it so soon." "We should negotiate for time," suggested the British Prime Minister. "Request cultural exchange, ask questions about integration terms, anything to delay while we prepare." President Park nodded. "Agreed. And meanwhile, activate Poseidon's crew, quietly." The world's response to the hegemony was carefully crafted, diplomatic, filled with questions about their culture, government, and intentions. Earth's representatives requested meetings, clarifications, and time to prepare their populations for such monumental change. High Admiral Tay appeared unimpressed, but granted a 3-day extension for proper transition preparations. Behind the scenes, military personnel from 5 nations quietly disappeared from their posts, reporting to hidden facilities across the globe. Dr. Moon, the lead scientist on Project Poseidon, worked through sleepless nights with her team, finalizing systems that had never been intended for immediate deployment. "The power core is stable," she reported to Admiral June. "Weapons are at 89% calibration. It's not ideal, but it's operational." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, inside a massive underwater hangar built in secret over a decade, the TCS Prometheus waited. Earth's first and only supercarrier, constructed using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien scout ship recovered in 2031. Few humans knew of its existence. Even fewer understood its capabilities. The vessel represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, and now, perhaps, its only hope. On the final day before the deadline, High Admiral Tay grew suspicious of Earth's continued questions and requests for clarification. "Your delaying tactics are transparent and tiresome," he announced. "We detect unusual energy signatures from your ocean regions. Explain immediately." Before President Park could respond, The hegemony launched its first attack, a demonstration that destroyed 3 uninhabited islands in the Pacific. The message was clear. No more delays would be tolerated. That night, as military leaders gathered in the crisis room, Director Kang received a message from the Poseidon facility. He handed the note to President Park, whose expression remained carefully neutral as she read it. "Admiral June reports they're ready," she said quietly. "It's time to show the hegemony that Earth isn't as defenseless as they believe." Outside, civilians watched the alien ships glowing in the night sky, unaware that beneath the dark Pacific waters, humanity's secret weapon was preparing for war. High Admiral Tay stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. The blue planet looked peaceful from orbit, but his patience had run out. "These humans think they can delay us with endless questions," he said to Commander Min. "They hide something. I can sense it." "Our scans show minimal defense capabilities," Min replied. "Their most advanced weapons are primitive compared to ours." Tay's eyes narrowed. "Begin the first strike sequence. Target their major military installations. Avoid civilian centers for now. We need workers, not martyrs." Across Earth, military bases received urgent warnings as the hegemony ships shifted formation. General Han burst into the White House Situation Room where President Park was meeting with her advisors. "They're moving into attack positions," he reported, his voice tense. "Multiple targeting systems have locked onto our bases worldwide." Before anyone could respond, the first strikes hit. Brilliant beams of energy sliced through the atmosphere, hitting with pinpoint accuracy. The Andrews Air Force Base disappeared in a flash of light. Similar reports flooded in from military installations across the globe. "Seoul Air Defense Command, gone," reported an aide. "Pacific Fleet Headquarters in Pearl Harbor, direct hit." "Moscow, Central Command, destroyed." The attacks came with surgical precision. The aliens weren't wasting energy on random destruction. They were systematically eliminating Earth's ability to fight back. In an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Director Kang watched the disaster unfold on multiple screens. His face remained stone-like as reports of casualties poured in. "The Prometheus?" he asked simply. "Still undetected," replied his aide. "The underwater hangar remains secure." Kang nodded. "Send the activation command now. Code Poseidon full deploy." Above them, High Admiral Tay watched with satisfaction as Earth's defenses crumbled. A few missiles launched from surviving bases, but they exploded harmlessly against the hegemony ship's shields. "Pathetic," Tay remarked. "Their most powerful weapons can't even—" He stopped mid-sentence as a new alert sounded. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "we're detecting an unusual energy signature from their ocean." On Earth, chaos reigned. York's skyline was partially in ruins after a hegemony ship targeted the United Nations headquarters. London, Beijing, and Tokyo had suffered similar strategic strikes. Global communication networks faltered as key satellites were destroyed. In the White House bunker, President Park made the hardest call of her life. "We can't wait any longer," she told the assembled leaders. "We're losing our conventional forces too quickly." She picked up a secure phone and gave a simple order. "Execute Prometheus Protocol." 500 feet beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral June received the command. He stood on the bridge of the massive vessel that had been humanity's best-kept secret for 15 years. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered calmly. "Prepare for surface breakthrough." The crew, handpicked from militaries around the world, moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment, though none had truly believed it would come. "Power core at full capacity," reported Chief Engineer Doe. "Weapons systems, online," added Weapons Officer Park. "Shield generators active," said Lieutenant G from her station. Admiral June nodded. "Begin surfacing procedure." Miles above, High Admiral Tay was receiving concerning reports. "The energy signature is growing stronger," his science officer warned. "It's unlike anything in our database." "Show me," Tay demanded. The holographic display shifted to show thermal imaging of the Pacific Ocean. Something massive was rising. From the depths, something that shouldn't exist according to their intelligence on Earth's technology. The ocean's surface began to bulge upward, water cascading off a rising form. With a tremendous splash, the TCS Prometheus broke the surface, a vessel nearly a mile long, its dark hull glistening with water in the sunlight. On the Hegemony flagship, silence fell over the command deck. "What is that?" Tay finally asked, his voice barely controlled. "Unknown vessel class," responded his sensor officer. "Energy readings suggest technology that—" "Sir, it's comparable to our own." Tay's eyes widened. "Impossible. Target it immediately." 3 Hegemony warships repositioned, their weapons charging. The first shot fired, a beam of energy that should have vaporized any Earth vessel. Instead, it splashed harmlessly against an invisible barrier surrounding the Prometheus. On the bridge of Earth's Supercarrier, Admiral June allowed himself a small smile. "Shield integrity at 92%, reported Lieutenant G. "Their weapons are strong, but our defenses are holding." "Launch fighter squadrons," ordered June. "Target pattern Alpha." From hidden bays along the massive carrier, smaller craft emerged, fighters unlike anything Earth had publicly revealed, powered by the same reverse-engineered technology as their mothership. High Admiral Tay watched in growing horror as the impossible unfolded before him. This wasn't the easy conquest he had promised his superiors. Somehow, Earth had technology that shouldn't exist. "All ships, focus fire on that vessel," he commanded. "Destroy it at all costs." But as the battle began in earnest, a terrible realization dawned on him. The humans had been ready. They had been waiting. And they had kept their greatest weapon secret until the perfect moment. In the quiet depths of the Pacific Ocean, a secret was about to be unveiled. The research vessel Horizon cut through the dark waters, its hull trembling with anticipation. Dr. Elena Martinez stood at the ship's bridge, her hands gripping the navigation console with a mixture of excitement and tension. Project Poseidon had been a whispered legend among marine researchers for years. What started as a classified government initiative had slowly transformed into something far more extraordinary. Elena knew the risks, but the potential discovery was too important to ignore. The underwater scanning equipment hummed with intense energy. Strange electromagnetic signals had been detected in this precise location for months. Something unprecedented was waiting to be discovered beneath the waves. As the ship's advanced sonar began mapping the ocean floor, a massive structural outline emerged. It wasn't natural. The geometric precision suggested something constructed, something that shouldn't exist at such depths. The team watched in stunned silence as the image became clearer. Jack Reynolds, the team's lead marine archaeologist, adjusted his glasses and zoomed in on the screens. "This can't be real," he muttered. The structure appeared to be a complex network of interconnected chambers, each perfectly aligned with mathematical precision. Its scale was mind-boggling, larger than any known underwater installation. Elena's heart raced. Years of research, countless sleepless nights, and massive funding had led to this moment. The underwater structure seemed to pulse with an unexplained energy, almost as if it were alive. The team prepared their deep-sea exploration. Robots. Specialized cameras and sensors were carefully calibrated to withstand extreme pressures. Every movement was calculated, every decision carefully considered. As the first robot descended into the dark waters, strange readings began to appear. Temperature fluctuations, unusual electromagnetic interference, and unexplained energy signatures started flooding the monitors. Something extraordinary was waiting to be uncovered. The robot's lights cut through the murky darkness, revealing intricate architectural details that defied current understanding of marine engineering. Smooth metallic surfaces gleamed, showing no signs of corrosion despite being underwater for what seemed like centuries. Suddenly, a massive chamber came into view. Its dimensions were impossible, spanning hundreds of meters, with corridors that seemed to twist and turn in ways that challenged basic geometric principles. Jack's hands trembled as he watched the live feed. Elena realized they were witnessing something beyond scientific comprehension. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery. This was a revelation that could rewrite human understanding of technology, history, and possibly even human origins. The robots continued their careful exploration, capturing every minute detail. Strange symbols decorated the walls, not like any known human language but structured with complex mathematical precision. They seemed to tell a story, a narrative of something far more advanced than current human civilization. As hours passed, the team's initial excitement transformed into a mixture of fear and profound wonder. What they were seeing challenged everything they knew about human technological capability. The structure suggested knowledge and engineering skills far beyond current understanding. The depth and complexity of the installation suggested it wasn't a recent construction. Preliminary scans indicated it could be thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of years old. Yet its materials showed no degradation, no signs of age. Jack whispered to Elena, "This changes everything we know about human history." She nodded, understanding the immense implications of their discovery. As the first day of exploration concluded, more questions emerged than answers. The team knew they were standing at the threshold of something monumentally significant. Project Poseidon was no longer just a research initiative. It was becoming a gateway to understanding something profound about human potential and mysterious technological achievements. The ocean kept its secrets close, but not for much longer. Something extraordinary was about to be revealed, something that would challenge everything humanity thought it knew about its own history and capabilities. In the quiet hours before dawn, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of the abandoned warehouse, her eyes scanning the misty landscape. The resistance had been pushed to the brink, their numbers dwindling after months of brutal conflict. But tonight would be different. Tonight, they would strike back. The plan was simple, but dangerous. A small team of 5 would infiltrate the enemy's central communication hub, disrupting their ability to coordinate attacks. Elena knew it was a suicide mission, but it was their last chance to turn the tide of the war. Jack, her most trusted lieutenant, checked the makeshift explosives they had cobbled together from scavenged parts. His hands moved quickly, practiced from countless missions. Beside him, Maria was adjusting her communication gear, her fingers dancing over the old radio equipment with surprising delicacy. The team moved like shadows through the pre-dawn darkness. Years of fighting had taught them to move silently, to become invisible. The enemy checkpoint loomed ahead, a fortified building surrounded by high walls and razor wire. But Elena had studied their patrol patterns for weeks, finding the one weak spot in their defense. As they approached, a distant dog barked. Everyone froze. Seconds felt like hours. Then silence returned, broken only by the soft crunch of gravel beneath their boots. Jack signaled with a quick hand movement, 2 guards to the left, one watching the main gate. The first guard fell without a sound. Elena's knife found its mark with deadly precision. The second guard never saw what was coming. Within moments, they were inside the perimeter, moving toward the central building that housed the communication systems. Maria worked her magic on the electronic security systems. Wires crossed, circuits bypassed. The doors slid open as if inviting them in. The irony wasn't lost on Elena. Technology that was supposed to protect now betrayed its masters. Inside, rows of computer screens flickered with encrypted messages and military communications. Jack began planting the explosives strategically, each device carefully positioned to cause maximum damage. Maria started uploading a virus that would cripple their entire communication network. But something felt wrong. The room was too quiet. Too empty. A sudden movement. A glint of metal. Elena spun, her weapon already raised. An ambush. The enemy had known they were coming. Gunfire erupted. The team scattered, seeking what little cover they could find. Jack took a hit to his shoulder but kept fighting. Maria's quick thinking activated a series of electromagnetic pulse devices, temporarily blinding their attackers. Elena realized they had walked into a trap. But she also knew retreat was not an option. Everything depended on completing their mission. The resistance was counting on them to break the enemy's communication lines. In a moment of desperate inspiration, she signaled Jack to create a diversion. He understood immediately. Using his last explosive device, he created a massive explosion that rocked the entire building. In the chaos, Elena and Maria pushed forward, reaching the main communication server. The final minutes were a blur of action. Explosives planted, virus uploaded, mission objectives achieved, but at a terrible cost. As they fought their way out, Elena saw Jack fall. Maria was wounded. The building behind them erupted in flames, sending a massive signal of defiance into the night sky. They had struck a blow, a small victory in a long, brutal war, but victories like these came with a price. As dawn broke, Elena looked at her wounded team, knowing they had changed the course of the conflict. If only for a moment, the resistance would live to fight another day. In the heart of a war-torn city, Elena stood at the window, her fingers tracing the cracked glass. The resistance had been pushed to the brink, their hope slowly bleeding away like the setting sun outside. She remembered the days when they first started fighting, full of passion and belief that they could change everything. Jake, her most trusted companion, entered the room with a map clutched tightly in his hands. His face was weathered, covered in dust and determination. "We have one chance," he whispered, spreading the map across the old wooden table. Tiny red and blue markers showed the positions of their fighters and the enemy's troops. The city had been under siege for months. Every street was a battlefield, every building a potential trap. The resistance was outnumbered, outgunned, but not outspirited. They had something the enemy could never understand, a burning desire for freedom that ran deeper than any weapon. Elena studied the map carefully. Their previous attempts had failed, leaving behind nothing but broken dreams and fallen comrades. But this plan was different. It was risky, almost impossible, but it might just work. They would strike at the enemy's weakest point, a supply depot hidden on the city's eastern edge. The plan was simple but dangerous. A small team would create a diversion near the city center, drawing the enemy's attention. Meanwhile, a smaller group would slip behind enemy lines and destroy the supply depot. It was a gamble that could turn the entire conflict. Jake looked at Elena, his eyes asking the question before his lips could form the words. She nodded. They both knew the risks. Many would not return. The chance of success was slim, but the alternative was complete surrender. That night, they gathered their best fighters. Young men and women who had lost everything but still held hope in their hearts. Some were barely more than teenagers, their faces showing a mix of fear and determination. They knew this might be their last mission, but they were ready. The city was quiet, almost too quiet. Darkness covered their movements like a protective blanket. The first team moved into position, their footsteps careful and calculated. Elena watched from a hidden observation point, her heart racing with each passing moment. Suddenly, explosions erupted in the city center. Gunfire followed, creating chaos and confusion. The enemy troops rushed to respond, leaving their eastern positions vulnerable. It was working perfectly. The second team moved silently, slipping through narrow alleys and abandoned buildings. Jake led them, his movements precise and calculated. They reached the supply depot just as the main battle was reaching its peak. What happened next would be remembered as a turning point in the conflict. The explosion that followed was massive, sending a huge fireball into the night sky. The enemy's supplies, weapons, ammunition, food, all disappeared in a matter of seconds. The resistance fighters fought with everything they had. Some fell, their bodies adding to the countless stories of sacrifice. But they had achieved something impossible. They had shown that spirit could overcome overwhelming odds. As dawn broke, Elena realized everything had changed. The enemy was in disarray, their supply lines destroyed. The resistance had struck a blow that would be felt for months to come. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was hope, pure and simple. Jake returned, wounded but alive. He sat next to Elena, both of them looking out at the city that had been their battlefield and their home. They had lost friends, suffered immense pain, but they had not lost their spirit. The tide was turning, slowly, carefully, but definitely turning. Each small victory brought them closer to their ultimate goal, freedom. The city that had been crushed under occupation was beginning to breathe again, its people finding strength in their resistance. Elena knew the fight was far from over, but for the first time in months she allowed herself a small smile. They had done the impossible. They had given their people a chance. The sun continued to rise, casting long shadows across the broken city. But within those shadows, something new was growing: hope, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of people who refused to be defeated.